Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Look, if you're laser focused on optimizing your procurement strategy, you are absolutely in the right place today. We're diving into the latest source data to decode tomorrow's exclusive X-Works price revisions. We'll be exploring global developments, feedstock trends, and domestic bazaar conditions to really get a handle on the precise forecast for July 9th. We're going to break down the exact numbers and, more importantly, the market forces driving them so you can stay one step ahead of the curve.
But, hey, before we jump into those hard numbers, I want to make sure you've got the best tools at your disposal. If you want these instant weekly trends sent directly to your phone, it literally could not be easier. You can get instant updates in just 5 seconds. All you've got to do is text the word prediction to our AI-powered WhatsApp chatbot at +91 93746 24365. It's an absolutely fantastic resource for keeping your finger right on the pulse of the market without missing a beat.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the July 9th forecast, focusing on our core price predictions.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what buyers need to know right now. Looking at the projected price outlook, the most significant downward pressure is hitting PP, HDPE, and LLDPE. They are taking the biggest hits, facing an expected reduction of 3 to 5 rupees per kg. Now, moving over to LDPE, we're seeing a slightly softer drop. We're looking at a reduction of 1 to 3 rupees per kg. And finally, for PVC, prices are expected to either just roll over or take a very minor reduction of 1 to 2 rupees per kg. So the overarching theme across the board here is pretty clear, right? We are looking at a market in retreat.
Moving on to Section 2, Sector Demand. Let's take the Bazaar Pulse.
So, let's start by diagnosing the domestic dynamics of the PP market. The crucial point here is that demand remains incredibly sluggish. But what's fascinating is the contrast. We actually have improved availability across the board right now. You know those previously short-supplied grades you might have struggled to source recently? Things like film, lamination, and other specialties? Well, they're now readily available. But despite all this new availability, buying activity is still only moderate. And adding heavyweight to this domestic situation is the international scene. Continued price corrections in the Middle East are heavily dictating our domestic pricing strategies.
Now, shifting over to the PE market, the story is kind of one of missed connections. Domestic producers have rolled out these early bird incentive schemes to try and stimulate the market, but honestly, they have completely failed to trigger the desired buying response from converters. And the why is simple. You just can't force demand when the downstream is struggling. Finished product sales are weak right now. Because of that weakness at the very end of the supply chain, procurement by converters is strictly limited to need-based volumes. Nobody is stocking up regardless of how good the incentives look on paper.
Now, what's really interesting about the PVC market is this stark contrast. On one side of the equation, we've got incredibly comfortable supply. There are absolutely no major availability concerns right now. But on the flip side, demand stays incredibly subdued. Processors are looking out at the landscape and they are playing it extremely safe. Just like we saw in the PE market, they are only buying exactly what they immediately need just to keep operations running.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 3, Global Drivers and the Crude Oil Impact.
Now, this is a massive piece of the macroeconomic puzzle. Geopolitical tensions in the Middle East have eased considerably lately, and when those tensions ease, the risk premium on energy drops, which directly leads to softer crude oil and energy prices. Polymers are, of course, derived from these petrochemicals. So this softening in the energy sector acts almost like gravity. It creates this immense downward pressure that just pulls global polymer prices down with it in the near term. This collective global sigh of relief is directly contributing to those price reductions we walked through earlier.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 4, the BCD Policy Watch, where all eyes are on New Delhi.
The overarching market sentiment right now can honestly be summed up in just 3 words: wait and watch. Market participants are closely, and I mean very closely, monitoring the Government of India's impending decision regarding the continuation of the Temporary Basic Customs Duty, or BCD policy relief. The sheer uncertainty surrounding whether this relief is going to continue or just expire has essentially paralyzed fresh commitments across the market. I mean, think about it. No one wants to make a major financial move when the regulatory ground underneath them might completely shift overnight. And the ripple effect of this delay from New Delhi is widespread. Importers have largely adopted that wait-and-watch approach, putting their fresh commitments totally on hold. But it's not just the importers. Domestic producers are caught in this exact same holding pattern. They are waiting to factor the government's policy decision into tomorrow's ultimate pricing strategy. Until that decision is finally made public, it remains the single biggest market driver today.
It's completely overshadowing even the sluggish domestic demand and the softening global crude prices we just talked about.
Okay, just a quick heads up before we wrap up today. While these predictions are based on highly comprehensive research and the most current data we have, market trends are, for sure, always subject to change. We always advise you to exercise your own commercial judgment when making your final procurement decisions. If you want to dive deeper into this or need real-time updates, be sure to visit www.polymerbazaar.com, or you can actually just call the team directly at +91 93754 24365.
So I'm going to leave you with this final multi-million rupee question to chew on for your own operations. How will New Delhi's impending BCD policy decision reshape your long-term procurement strategy? Will you be ready to pivot if that duty relief is suddenly removed, or are you perfectly positioned to capitalize if it sticks around? It's the big question every focus buyer needs to answer right now. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay sharp out there, and I will see you in the next market update.